Good evening. The SABC is to get a shot in the arm from the National Treasury before the end of this month in order to deal with its liquidity crisis.
It's set to recapitalise the public broadcaster so it can pay its debts. This will free it up some much-needed cash for the SABC to pay staff salaries.
Much effort has been placed on revenue generation, and in this respect, focus has been both on traditional as well as alternative revenue streams. To this effect, year to date, we're standing at 4.8 billion over a projected budget of 5.5 billion. And despite all of the issues around the economic downturn and other related challenges that the SABC has seen, we see that quarter on quarter there's been quite significant improvement in terms of revenue growth. The other point that I think it's worth mentioning is we're also seeing early signs of positive growth in as far as TV license collection is concerned. Year to date, we're standing at 917 million against a projected target of 1 billion. Proof indeed that we are making quite a lot of inroads in this manner. What we've also done is we've actually implemented across the organization cost-cutting measures that have helped us to realize savings of over 785 million year to date. However, as you may appreciate, the biggest challenge that we're facing is that our cost base across the organization is still high. Despite all of these improvements in revenue, as well as the cost containment measures, we still need to do much more.
Now, Thandi Smith is head of policy programming, media monitoring Africa. She joins us on Skype, and we'll also be speaking to Hannes Dubuisson, who is with president of BMAU. Let's first start with you, Ms. Smith. A very good evening to you, firstly, and thank you so much for talking to us. What was your reaction when the Communications Minister, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, made the announcement?
Well, I mean, the first reaction is that we have no details. She's made these announcements that there's an interim relief. We don't understand what interim relief is.
Okay. All right, let me see while we try and get a clearer line with you, if we can get Mr. Dubuisson on the line. So just the details that we are getting through, Mr. Dubuisson, is that the intervention itself will help to deal with salaries, will help to deal with suppliers, investment in marketing, capital expenditure and infrastructure, among others. Is this the information or the detail that you've received?
Yes, good evening. Absolutely. This is the information that we received. We are grateful to the Minister for extending this lifeline. It was almost too late. But the understanding is that, yes, that is to save the SABC at the end of going completely in full-blown liquidity. The situation at the SABC, of course, is dire in terms of the infrastructure. There's been recently a fire in the Durban office. There's serious issues around the infrastructure. But, of course, the most important one is of course, the issue of staff salaries.
Let me come back to you, Ms. Smith. I mean, he says, that's Mr. Dubuisson, that it's a bit late. And in 2016 already, the SABC was already warning of major liquidity challenges. Shouldn't or couldn't something have been done earlier?
Absolutely. I mean, this has been one of the key issues that we've had in all the advocacy plans and the campaign issues. You know, for over a year now, we had the board asking for the guarantee before December. So yes, it is a bit late, and you have to start asking the reasons about why it's only coming in now. We're in the middle of the election period.
In now.
Months that you know, the end of March.
Okay, we're going to just have to see if we can get Mr. Dubuisson to then continue the conversation with us. We do apologize for the bad quality of that connection. Mr. Dubuisson, we know that there has been declining revenue for a while now, just in terms of the debt that the SABC had seen itself in. What are your thoughts on why now the SABC has gone cap in hand number of times to the Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Communications, to the Treasury, to other structures of government? What are your thoughts on the delay?
Yeah, I must just make you aware of the fact that I think your director is also speaking in my ear, so I've missed half of your question. But I believe the question is, what is the reason why it's been done so late, and whether there's no sinister motive behind this. I think that the Department of Communications and, of course, the Minister would have liked to see that giving a lifeline like they've done with other state-owned entities, that money would be spent wisely. I think that there's been constantly been asked in Parliament by the Portfolio Committee that a proper plan must be put on the table. And I think that committee members were not satisfied that whatever has been put on the table is a plan that is proper and that would then deserve funding. And I think that, as the CEO has said today and the CFO, they've been working hand in hand with the Department of Communications to then get that particular plan on the table. And I can only speculate at this point in time, but it seems to me that is the reason why, by only now that working with the Department of Communications, that the Minister has been satisfied.
Okay, so
there is a plan.
As Bamal at the SABC, you have been able to observe some of the changes, even some of the proposals that have been put on the table. Why have we not been able to stem operational losses? Why does expenditure continue to outperform revenue? What is the problem? Is it systemic? Because at some point it was said that certain characters or personalities impeded us being able to stem the problem.
Well, we have been saying this, and we are going to say this again. We do not necessarily believe that the SABC's financial situation is purely about cost. Yes, there is a huge cost factor. There was huge wastage of money, as there is still today. What has, for instance, been said in Parliament about outside legal resources that has been used is not entirely correct. We are aware of those things. But the fact of the matter is that the revenue of the SABC, there is not enough done to increase the revenue of the SABC. And once you increase revenue, of course, the balance between expenditure and revenue would completely change.
And just before we end our conversation with you, I mean, just some of the proposals that were proffered, looking at the landmark advertising management system that was called into place or into question, that contract there, which showed a 300 million rand loss under revenue review at some point. Were those effective? And if not, what was the problem?
Well, the landmark system is one of the systems that we have pointed out about 4 or 5 years ago to SABC management, where that system was a huge problem, where the SABC has millions of rands per month that they had to give back to advertisers because of the ineffectiveness of that particular system or the way that it has been configured. So we have complained about that, and of course, it was not necessary for that particular system to be put on place. It is not a system that is designed for that much radio stations, and in particular for the situation that the SABC has found itself in. And of course, those are some of the issues that we did raise with the SABC, but to no joy at that point in time. Now it seems to be that they have listened and that they have seen that what we have been saying all along is in fact the truth.
All right, I believe we have managed to raise Thandi Smith back on the line. Let me find out from you your views on this. Mr. Du Bois saying that some of the changes really weren't as systemic as they were put out to be, that they could have done better. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, firstly, we have to consider the strategic sort of political gain that we've seen up until this point. And sort of a deliberate strategy to keep the SABC in crisis over the last couple of months. Again, we don't have a lot of detail around this from entails. We don't know amounts. We do know that it's not the full amount that the SABC board have been asking for. And the other issue is that we need a core board to make the decisions around accepting the terms of the interim relief. We can't let this be yet another sort of political backdoor for interference. And what this morning.
All right, unfortunately, that's just not working out. But I do thank both of you that there is, from Media Monitoring Africa, Thandi Smith, and thank you very much to Hannes de Bossen of Bemau. We're going to take a quick break.